everybody, and welcome back to a new C.L. Aldridge coloring adventure. My name is Christine Aldridge. I am an artist, and this is a voiceover video. I'm showing you a new drawing that I've recently completed. It is called Homage to a Quilt, and it is what we're going to be coloring today. And of course, this is my recent book, Mandalas. The best of C.L. Aldridge art mandalas. I released this by request, and it does contain 48 of the mandalas that I have drawn over the last several years that make appearances in various of my coloring books. Of course, I don't only draw mandalas, but there are a few in each book, and then this is where they all are in one book. So if you enjoy coloring mandalas, this is the book to buy. And of course, it is available both in print at Etsy, well, actually in print at Amazon, and in my Etsy shop as a PDF instant download. If you only like some of the designs, you can buy them by the page there in my Amazon or my Etsy shop as well. Boy, I'll tell you what, you'd think that after all this time I'd finally get that right. This is my helper, Coriander. She is, as always, curious, but I suspect it's the flags that I have marking the pages in that book which have attracted her attention this time. She's usually pretty good if I just push her out of the way. So we're going to be coloring today with these CaliArt markers. I'm introducing myself, and this is my most recent book, Dragons, Flowers, and Mandalas, oh my, and it joins my family of other books so that you can see that there are quite a few. I think I'm up to number 12, and of course working on a new one always. So in just a second here, the colors that I'm using today are going to pop up on the screen in case anybody would like to write them down and color along. I am working from my CaliArt marker set today, and I have the 100 set. So I understand that there is now 180 set, but that is not one that I actually have. So anyway, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also, I would love it if you're new to my channel, if you wanted to subscribe and click the bell for notifications so that you'll know when I do post new videos. I do post in a number of different formats. Some are like this, that are voiceovers. Others are coloring chats. Some are live. Of course, I do a live show every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But they all involve coloring or art in some way. I do watercolor as well, and so there are going to be some of those videos up this year as we progress along. Now I did start with this turquoise green light color, and I am leaving just a little like a needle's eye in these particular flowers, and that are petals, and that is to give it the impression of being sort of metallic or highlighted without having to use either a Posca or a Uniball highlighting pen. And I'm going to switch here to the light orange. That was the turquoise green. This is the light orange. I've always really enjoyed this particular color combination of turquoise, greens, and orange shades together. Now, I like the light orange in this set because it is sort of to the pinky side of orange, and as opposed to the more yellow side of orange, and I like that very, very much. Now this is Horizon Green, which is just a lovely sage green, sagey green. It's more like a seafoam green, um, or what we used to think of as being a seafoam green. And I really like it, and I like the way that it looks against the turquoise and the orange. And then the other sort of main color that I'm going to grab here, or bold color, is the petal rose. And we'll get to that one in just a second. But I like the combination of all of these colors together. And then I do also throw in a baby blue and then a warm gray to give it just some neutrality, sort of save it from getting far away from me in color. I'm not usually this subtle with color. I am much more of a jewel tone kind of a girl, as a general rule. I like my deep sapphires and my ruby reds and my bright fuchsias and that type of thing. So this is a rather subdued palette, but I think it also it serves the art in that I was thinking, when I drew this, I was really thinking of quilting and a patchwork quilt and all the different kinds of quilts that there are. The daisy ring quilt and the wedding ring quilt and the patchwork quilt and the bow tie quilt and the piece quilt, the piece work quilt where you're, pretty much working with triangles. Quilting is actually a lot of fun. It's something that I haven't had time for in years, but when I was younger, I used to make quite a few quilts. I never did patchwork quilts so much as I did sort of intentionally color coordinated, matched pattern patchwork. I.e., it wasn't random at all. It was planned. And I think that if you do plan them, that they can be beautiful. But there is also a certain symmetry into not planning it at all. And just go. It used to be that they made patchwork quilts by necessity because they needed to be able to use up every square bit of fabric and get use out of all of that. And of course, now we do it to recycle. We do it to make memories or keep memories. I know that people have made a lot of t-shirt quilts of their favorite t-shirts that they've collected throughout their lives and that type of thing. It's just one of the things that has always drawn me to the medium. And of course, I love it when a quilt show comes to town. And I do have to fight with myself not to buy fat quarters. And if you don't know what fat quarters are, you're not a quilter. Every quilter in the world knows what a fat quarter is. It's basically a quarter inch or a quarter of a yard of fabric, but it's cut on the 18 inches side. So you take a yard of fabric and cut it in half and then quarter that so that it's on the fat side. It's not narrow. Anyway, that's what a fat quarter is. Just in case you wanted to know. So here I am. I'm working with that petal rose, and you can see that it is it's just barely different than the light orange that is in the top flower, and that will become much more apparent when I use it in the daisies or the flowers out in the daisy ring. But I think it's really a pretty shade, and one that CaliArt has done really, really well with. Now this is the baby blue, which has always tended, to me, it's always seemed to tend more toward turquoise. That cat seems bound and determined to help me out here, doesn't she? You should see what she's doing right now. Let's see here. Okay, now this is the warm gray, and there are many points where I question the wisdom of having used this color, but ultimately in the end I'm really quite happy with the fact that I did use it, and I used it sparingly, mostly because it's sort of a non-color, and that will become apparent when I there's a place where I try and use it and it just doesn't show up, and so I end up having to use something else, but we'll get there. But as I'm coloring this, I'm trying, not to put too many same color ones too close to each other, but there are a couple where it's been done intentionally. So, I didn't want to put like two pinks, like, down there in the right opposite my hand right now. There's two pinks up there, and there's another place where there's a couple of greens together, that kind of thing. So I wanted to avoid that as much as possible, but I did try and balance it out. Okay, now I'm going to pull in this, well, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to do the Seacrest green. So this is a slightly more yellow-blue green, and slightly darker than the horizon, but I think it really works. It really works underneath this flower, and I'm really quite pleased with how it works. By the way, I have sped this video up a fair bit, only out of respect for all of your time, and that it is sort of repetitive. So while I love to instruct and provide inspiration and things like that, I also don't ever want to bore you. And sometimes I think that the repetitive coloring of the same particular shape over and over again is very soothing, but it didn't serve my need today. So that's not to say that people who do it are doing wrong. I think they're not. I mean, I think they're doing fine. Excuse me. This is where this gray is not showing up. It just absolutely isn't. And no matter what happens, I cannot make it show up in these particular stripy spots. So now I do continue all the way around with it, but I ultimately am pretty unhappy with how it looks, and I will end up changing it a little bit later. But for right now, I decide I just have to go with it, because it seems sort of pointless at this, because I'm looking at it and even I can't see it, and I'm right on top of it. So now I'm going to redeem myself by using the turquoise green light. Anyway, I hope that everybody is having a good week this week. It has been temperate here in Virginia, where we've actually been trying to set new warmth records for this time of the year, which is unusual. As longtime watchers of my show will tell you, I am a news junkie, so I have, of course, been occupied today. Today is Thursday, watching our government at work, and I think it's very interesting that they do put broadcast cameras, in places where we can actually watch and see what our senators do all day, and it's I like I like to know, I like to be able to listen to things myself. as opposed to waiting for the news and sound bites that may or may not, have the right context, or the context that a remark was intended to, to convey, that type of thing. So whenever possible, I try and watch as much as I can of, speeches and addresses and press conferences, anything like that. Because I like to be able to form my own opinions. I don't want to have to listen to talking heads or have somebody tell me what I should think about something. I'm going to think it myself based upon my understanding of what I heard. But that's sort of is neither here nor there. And it really has no bearing on any, certainly not on this coloring. But it's what I was doing today. But throughout the week, of course, I have been watching YouTube videos and studying all kinds of things from one of my favorite creators, who is the Content Bug, who has grown her channel from 1,000 to 50,000 subscribers in the space of 60 days, legit subscribers. And of course, she does it by talking about her journey on YouTube, which I think is fascinating. Obviously, I am an artist, so I have a completely different genre and completely different interest of people. But I think it's good to stay educated on, on how, how other people do things. And to that end, I do watch a lot of other people's channels. And, of course, I love watching A Colorful Life. And so this week I got to watch Anne talk about 2 new Korean coloring books that she got in. And, do some coloring. And, I went over because she has a brand new crafting channel. So I was over there watching, diamond painting, because I do that too. So that's, it's always good. I spent some time with Mrs. Coffee. I spent some time with Lisa at Lisa's Coloring Corner. I watched the Art Nouveau flip-throughs at Color Creatively. And of course, I spent quite a few hours this week with Dee Dee on her channel. There's just so much good content to watch, and so, few hours in the day to watch it, waking hours. I do have to say a big shout out to a friend who wishes to remain anonymous, who has sent me some things which are really helping with my breathing. Although you wouldn't know it right this very second, but I am much, much better today than I was yesterday, or actually on Sunday. My breathing was really awful on Sunday. So anyway, now this is where I'm making this mistake again with this green. Now this is the Sea Crest green, and ultimately it's the wrong green for this. What I want is the other one, the Horizon green. But like everything else in life, I am able to fix this mistake. There are very few mistakes that we can't actually fix. And so I will fix it right now, at least part of it. And I'm going to do this particular ring purple because I wanted to pull that purple back out. I love that red violet, or the deep violet. And I will end up changing, I'm doing it again. I'm using that same Seacrest green. And ultimately I determined that it is too green. And what I want is the other one, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I completely missed that what I did on those flowers is I mixed the pink and the orange. So I did pink to the inside, the petal rose pink to the inside closest to the center, and then the orange, lighter orange, on the outside. I also am using baby blue here, and I do leave that for the little buttons, but I do change those center bars to the turquoise green. And I do believe I show that. Alright, so now this is where I figure out that what I really want is the horizon green. So the experiment here is, can I change it? And the answer is yes. And so I can dull down the yellow in that yellow green with the blue green in the horizon. Now it is going to ultimately be a little bit darker than the rest of the green rings, but that's okay because the eye hardly sees that. You know, the bottom line is I wanted it to be a pretty piece, and I'm the only one, and now, of course, because I told you guys, we're the only ones that know that mistake is there. The eye is going to miss it. Most people are never going to see it. Now, I don't know that this is a particularly awe-inspiring coloring palette or color palette, but it is a very pretty one, and I like the way that the lights and the darks work together. So, you know, not every coloring has to be, you know, a 300 like, coloring. It can be a 30 like coloring. But I just, once again, these are, I would have a quilt in these colors in my room. I think, and I have a purple room, so imagine that. Imagine that I'm subscribed to that poem. When I am an old woman, I will wear purple. I actually painted my bedroom walls dusky purple. It's very pretty. All right, now I'm using that Seacrest green because that's the perfect spot for it, is inside of those particular flowers. All right, so I jumped ahead in the editing, and I did go ahead, since I'd worked out the color pattern that I wanted to use. I went ahead, and so you can see how it worked, and I did all of the flowers around the daisy ring. Now, and these are the outer bands, and I'm going to start with the warm gray. And remember that this is the bow tie quilt. So I am cross-coloring so that each one is its own individual little bow tie. And I love the warm gray and the way that it works in this particular piece. And I'm going to pair it with the horizon green or the turquoise blue. I don't remember which one, but I put it in when I edited the video, and there it is. It is the light turquoise green, or the turquoise green light, if you want to be absolutely. I love the fact that I just missed the top of that bow tie at the end. I do end up going back and catching that later. But I don't know where my mind was. I guess I was just thinking, I don't know. I could have just left it right there and been very, very happy with it. Look at the way that those colors work together with just the white. I think that's great. I really do. I do end up using other colors in it, but I really could have just left it alone. Now this is the petal rose. And remember, everybody, you can be as complicated or as simple as you like, with a color palette. I do have one lady who colors in my coloring group, and she can do what she can do with one pencil is absolutely incredible. Just using the various shading techniques that she knows of, she can use one pencil maybe with a lighter version of it or a slightly contrasting version of it and just make a masterpiece. It's an amazing talent, an absolutely amazing talent. Her name is Elizabeth, and I love her work. Okay, so now I've done that, and I'm really pleased with the way that this has come out so far. But of course, you know that I have to put a gem. There has to be a gem somewhere in my drawing. So there'll be a gem here in the center. And I wish I could say it's a great gem, but it is just sort of an average gem. But that's okay. They don't all have to be perfect. I needed a lighter version of this green, and instead I went with the sage blue, or the horizon blue, horizon green. So this gem just turns out sort of average. But it's pretty. It's pretty, and I'm really the only one that knows that it's not quite as light on that lower end as I would have wanted it to be. I was just going for sort of a translucent glass ball kind of look, just so it's not an empty space. All right, and I just went ahead and finished the other side, and now we get to embellish with some Zier glitter acrylic paint markers. And there's the cat. She really loves these, and she wants to come help, but I have not let her. I should say, she really behaved herself throughout the entire filming of this, other than occasionally walking through the shot. She was pretty good. So I'm going to do the dots, and now these particular gel pens or acrylic paint pens are translucent, but they also have a very vibrant color all to themselves. And this particular one is the light blue. Okay. See, I wrote it up there in the corner. Just made it idiot proof for myself so that I would always know what I was using. Yeah, she did come and lay down on the page, and I had to shoo her away. So this is the light blue, and then I try and use it right here, and I realize that it's a mistake, so I grab the dark green instead, which is actually a better, it's a much better contrast for this particular place. Now, ultimately, the sheen on these is silver. Some glitter gel pens are gold, but these particular ones glitter silver in the light. So, that's just something to keep in mind. Silver's, a wonderful, or maybe, I say silver, other people might say white. The glitter on them is clear white. Now I'm blaming Ian at A Colorful Life for this. I put a couple of frames in the back of a couple of my most recent books. And Anne did some mixed media work. She colored the frame, and then she cut out a bunch of coloring girls, or girls coloring pages and cut up a bunch of collage and made a really beautiful mixed media piece. And then she used these little, glitter rhinestones on it. And so I thought I bought some at the dollar store. I thought I'd give it a try. As you can see, apparently I should have peeled off the backing first. But I did get them down eventually. And of course, eventually I even figured out that if I turned the square sideways, then it would be a double. There's the cat. She really loves those. She says, "Oh, let me see, Mom, let me see." If I turned them sideways, they'd actually be diamond shaped. Sometimes the obvious escapes me. So anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed watching me color this particular homage to a quilt, and that until we meet again, that you will in fact color something pretty. Thank you for joining me, everybody.